Hi, welcome to the Milk Chocolate documentary. Today, we will learn about the racial disparities between Black women and white women in regards to breastfeeding. You will hear personal interviews of women who decided to breastfeed and who decided to use formula to feed their babies. Thank you.
Racial disparities, I can speak 1860 throughout 20th century, black women being utilized as wet nurses on a larger scale that white women have is something that was very real, very tangible, and it affected the health of black children because black women were wet nurses to white children, but oftentimes did not have the time to even nurse their own children. And so I believe that when we talk about racial disparities amongst women of color and white women, I think it's important that we say that the disparity is more so than just who are we breastfeeding, who are we not, but it's whose body are we using and for what purpose. Um, so racial disparities were a very real thing in American history past. In American history present, we still see sort of the same issue. We see way less of black women being wet nurses to white children, but we also see way less of black women breastfeeding their own children, and I believe that this is for two reasons. Number one, because over-sexualization and commodification of the black woman's body translates into my body is not good enough for me to provide that maybe there's something wrong with me. And so we see that reflected in self-esteem, quite naturally that's going to be reflected in breastfeeding culture. In addition to that, I lost my train of thought. You're gonna have to edit that out. In addition to that, I would say that black women also do not have the time. When we take a look at working white women and working black women, black women have never had a history where they have not worked at least one job. And so then when we factor in today's economy, black women today are historically working way more even than they were. Not necessarily in the ways that they were working on the plantation. The sentiment is still there. They're not doing this.
So I am going to be a first-time mommy soon, and so with that being said, I do plan on breastfeeding, and so I am coming from a family where there was no family history of breastfeeding, both on my mom's side, my dad's side, as well as my husband's side of the family, which included, of course, like his mom, his sister. We do not have a family history of breastfeeding. And so when I initially told them I was breastfeeding, I did kind of get some, I wouldn't necessarily backlash, but a lot of questions as to why I was choosing that option, what kind of benefit did I see as being an option, even just questions about what that process looked like, which definitely let me know that they didn't know a lot about it. And I think partly when I think about the reason why that is both of us, my husband and I, we do both come from a low socioeconomic status, where it is very common for WIC to exist, and it seems like WIC has become almost like the mechanism to formula feeding, even though I've talked to one of my practitioners and she said that was not the initial purpose of WIC. But it's
is that when I decided to breastfeed, my mother was aghast about the fact that I wanted to breastfeed. Now, mind you, my mother was an educated woman. She was a career educator in the elementary school. I come from a host of educated people. And when I had my eldest daughter in 1992, she asked me, Erica, well, why on earth would you want to do that? Mama, why would I want to do that? Well, there's formula you can buy. Why do you want to breastfeed? And I said, well, the literature that I've read states that it's better for your baby and it helps with their immune systems and everything else, and I want my baby to be healthy. So I went ahead and I decided to breastfeed, and in public I had a cover, and my mother, my stepfather, even my biological father were all very, very nervous about me breastfeeding in public, even though I had the baby and my breast covered.
Okay, so my last question is, when you were going through your prenatal care, did your providers talk to you about breastfeeding or formula, or
Yes.
both?
They talked to me about both. They actually asked me, and I told them, oh no, I'm breastfeeding. I knew that I was going to breastfeed, and that's what I was going to do. And they wanted me to attend some kind of training to help me with it and meet with someone to help me with breastfeeding. And I remember telling them, nope, that's what my family is for, that my family is going to help me if I have any questions. That's who I will be talking to. And I just really refused and declined their invitation to even sit down and have a face-to-face with the lactation nurse, you know, because I knew that's what my family was for, and that's who I would call on. And in my family, when a woman, you know, gives birth, somebody in the family goes and stays with that person for a week or 5 days. And so that's what we do. And we help them with the breastfeeding and the nursing. And if there's an issue, then we call one of the elders, the grandmothers, or the great aunts and ask them, what should we do? Because on some level, we still don't see the white man as the expert, and we still do not trust the white man when it comes to our care and providing us with correct answers. We just don't see them as the experts. We look towards our elders in the family as experts. And so that,
So my son is now 13 and a half now. When he was a baby, when he was born, I went in with the full intention of breastfeeding Cameron, but he didn't initially he didn't latch on, and I tried to get consultation from La Leche, I think it's called, to help. But because he wasn't latching on and he started to lose weight, you know, because he wasn't breastfeeding, I got a lot of pressure from my husband and his mom to just go ahead with the formula. Of course, she didn't breastfeed him, my husband, and he was born premature. So there was just a lot of pressure from them too, and I was just so, you know, exhausted and tired from, you know, having had a baby. Over time, I just, like over the course of a few days, I just decided to give him the formula. It was just, for me, it wasn't worth the hassle at that point.
Perfect. Do you have any thoughts about if WIC supports formula or if it supports breastfeeding for women?
So my understanding is that they kind of support both. So like they provide the milk for women who decide to do milk, but they also provide healthy foods or healthy food options for moms who decide to breastfeed.
Most of it is ignorance. You know, like those people who have college degrees, who know the importance of breastfeeding and probably have read something about the advantages of breastfeeding over formula, they breastfeed their children. But those people who don't have the knowledge and those people who don't know the advantages of breastfeeding, they tend just to depend on formula. And I think the thing that because here in America, everybody gets formula for free, right? Which is different from where I come from. Where I come from, the government only help or attempt to help those who have multiple births. You know, like when, let's say you have twins or triplets or etc., whatever it is. But if it's one child, the government does not help you. They believe you are supposed to take care of your own family. So people don't depend on formula. They depend on their breast milk. And the only time they use breast milk is when they go to work. But not everybody, even though they go to work, will still use formula. Some of them, they will have to resort to other things, like they will introduce solid foods at an early age or early stage, so that their children can have supplementary foods to get nutrients from, because they cannot be breastfeeding when they are not there. But then when they come back, they resume the breastfeeding.
WIC is most definitely supportive of women using formula. And that's because we see the government giving incentives for you to do something that is unnatural, like purchase formula. And you know, we don't see WIC until we start to see the rise of all of these American corporations that begin to benefit off health. When we start to see healthcare shift after 1950. So when we talk about government programs that are giving incentives to women to support corporations that are producing formula, it is undeniably there on purpose. The fact that a mother can go into the store and have incentives to buy formula instead of doing what's natural and free, absolutely, there's an underlying agenda there.